This episode of Paternity Court is about a 35-year-old helpless and confused daughter, Miss Lindsay, who, being fatherless, firmly believes that her mother's ex-boyfriend, Mr. Dannenbrink, could be her father, whom she has been without since her birth. However, Mr. Dannenbrink claims that he is certainly not her biological father, as his relationship with Miss Hampton had been more like a hookup. Let's first hear Miss Lindsay.
When I was about 16 years old, an ex of Mr. Dannenbrink's came to my house and accused me of being the child that they had had together.
And an ex of Mr. Dannenbrink's comes to your house,
Yes.
and says you're the child that your mother had with Mr. Dannenbrink.
Yes, Your Honor.
Lindsay's mother denies the allegation and claims that Lindsay is the daughter of a man other than Mr. Dannenbrink. This is a man whom Lindsay has never seen and probably never will.
She never told me that she was pregnant. She never told me I even had a child.
You didn't
Your
tell
Honor,
him you were
Your Honor,
pregnant?
I had no reason to tell him because he's not the father.
Well, things are getting pretty confusing. Miss Hampton says that she got pregnant between June and July, while Miss Lindsay brings forth a piece of evidence saying that since she was born a month premature, the conception would be between May and June, which somehow increases the probability of her being Mr. Dannenbrink's daughter.
The doctors did say that I was born a month premature, which puts my due date at March 11th, which...
Now, you will be amazed to know what Mr. Dannenbrink was up to when Miss Hampton got pregnant.
Do you agree with the dates set forth on this calendar?
I really couldn't tell you because back then it was hectic. I mean, back in the 70s, so I'm sure you understand what...
No, I was just a kid then, so is it safe to say there was a lot of sex going on during that time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Another hilarious moment where Lake's criticism of Miss Hampton and Mr. Dannenbrink's brief sexual relationship made the courtroom burst into laughter and the defendants in embarrassment.
I don't know, what's the word? Friends with benefits.
Friends with benefits.
But were y'all friends? I don't even get the friend part here.
Yeah.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Miss Lindsay is fed up with her mother's lies about her other illegitimate sibling, and that puts her into believing that Mr. Dannenbrink could be her father.
I remember at one time it was that she was an older sister. Then I remember at another time she was a younger sister than me.
So you've been told a story
Yes.
by your mother that she did have a child with Mr. Dannenbrink.
Yes.
You were told this child passed away.
Yes, at birth.
Apart from who is Lindsay's biological father, the courtroom gets to know a truth that leaves them shocked, and here is what that is.
But she didn't tell me about another brother. She got pregnant and gave him up for adoption. It went through social media that he found me.
Whoa, that's a lot to tolerate. Imagine being called up by an illicit sibling out of nowhere. Miss Hampton has the guts to keep things secret. Now it is time to know what the DNA results reveal.
Mr. Dannenbrink, you are not her father.
It doesn't matter. I consider her my daughter.
So, after all those traumatic years of confusion, Miss Lindsay would remain without finding her real father. But we hope she can have that beautiful bond with Mr. Dannenbrink. In this episode, Mr. Bolton doubts the paternity of the 7-month-old baby, Ileana, just because of similar experiences from his past, and also the people who keep questioning him whether he is the real father of the baby. But Miss Bido is quite firm in her claim that he is the father and that she has always been a faithful partner throughout their relationship.
The doctor that gave the procedure to deliver the baby, he handed me the baby and he looked at me. He said, "Are you sure this baby's yours?" Because this baby's white.
Well, we all know that kids do take after their parents, but Miss Bido has an explanation for this.
People in my family have different color eyes. My eyes are hazel. My father's eyes are green. He told me that when he was a young boy, when he was a baby, as a matter of fact, his eyes were blue and then they turned green.
That is a pretty fair reason though. But Bolton isn't satisfied, as he has been cheated on by women before who claimed he was the father of their kid, but turned out that he wasn't. Let's see where this takes us to.
3 times.
Yes, ma'am.
Someone has claimed you're the father of their child,
Yes, ma'am.
but you weren't.
I wasn't.
Oh my god, that's a lot of bad experiences you had to go through, Mr. Bolton. Further, it is revealed that Miss Bido slept with a guy while she had broken up with Mr. Bolton. Mr. Bolton has something hilarious to say to defend himself.
That was my logic, because every day she's saying, "Hey, you're a cheater, you're a cheater." So look, I cheated, I did, and I admit to that.
We are sorry, Mr. Bolton, for you were provoked to cheat on Miss Bedo. Haha, though Bolton has doubts, he has grown too close to the baby and only wants to know the truth.
Hello. Bye-bye. I love Ileana. Ever since she was born, I always been there.
Watching this, the courtroom and Miss Lake got emotional. We hope that this cute father-daughter bond remains eternal. Let's see what fate has decided for them.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Bolton, you are her father.
This case ends with a beautiful moment when Mr. Bolton proposes to Miss Bedo and she says yes. This is a case of two sisters, Ganita Rubin and Cheryl Rubin, who claim that their father never treated them and their brother rightly. Mr. Davis, who owes $60,000 in child support, asserts that he doubts being the father to these three kids. Out of all three, Davis is said to have specifically neglected Cheryl. Let's hear her side.
I just feel like he never treated me fair. With my brother and sister, he will bring things around, never brought me anything, always treated me differently.
Well, Mr. Davis soon opens up and tells the courtroom that he doubts that the mother of the three children had other affairs and so they couldn't be his. Though Davis has his explanation for what he claims, Miss Lake has something to say to him.
You should have brought her a toy. If she wasn't your child, if she was your enemy's child, you should have brought her something because she's a child.
Further, Davis's own daughter, Ganita, who he says to have treated like his own daughter, expresses what she suffered by not having constant support from her father.
I didn't have a man figure like in my life to tell me how to treat guys. I got to treat me, so I look the guys like for love and everything.
Davis then tells the courtroom that he wants to take a DNA test because if the kids are his, he wants to protect them from the diseases that run in his family genetically. But there could be other reasons too. He owes a huge amount of child support to these kids. This leaves the courtroom confused, and everyone anxiously waits for the truth to be revealed.
Is this really about the illnesses or is this about this huge child support debt?
It is both.
This case gives place to a heartwarming moment when Cheryl expresses her love for her stepmother, Carletha Davis, who never mistreated her despite having no blood relation with her.
When you were speaking to Miss Davis, you were more emotional than when you were speaking to Mr. Davis.
She treats me right.
Okay.
When he treated me differently from both of them, she was the person right there. Don't do her like that.
Miss Davis is surely a gem of a person and knows exactly how to show love to kids. Finally, the most awaited moment arrives and the results are announced. Jonathan and Ganita are declared to be Davis's kids. Lastly, the most mistreated daughter, Cheryl, also turns out to be his biological daughter.
In the case of Cheryl Rubin, that you are her father.
You already know.
Well, we hope that now Miss Cheryl gets rid of the emotional baggage she has been carrying for all these years and lives a peaceful life ahead. This episode is about Mr. Morgan, who claims that he is the father of the 1-month-old baby, which his partner Miss Gentry strongly denies, and that the child belongs to the other person she had slept with. Let's see what Mr. Morgan has to say to defend his claim.
Mr. Morgan, why do you believe she's denying you're the father?
I simply believe that she's denying this because we're no longer in a relationship and we're not going to be.
That could be a fair reason, but before we find out the truth, let's hear the mother's side.
He was bringing other women in, like my family member, and I caught him with my family member. I was done, so he called me back September the 19th, Your Honor. We did a quickie, then I left him that day and went with another guy, Your Honor.
Mr. Morgan tells the courtroom that Miss Gentry has fabricated it all. He tells what he calls the other side of the story. Miss Gentry stayed at his house 2 months after the breakup, during which they still slept together. That's a really weird kind of breakup, though. Further, the audience is taken aback when they find out about the couple's huge age difference.
How old are you, sweetheart?
I'm 19.
Mr. Morgan, how old are you?
37.
We come to know that Gentry's denial could be because she is very young. Morgan's fiancé further explains how she took care of her during the pregnancy.
I'm tired of dealing with her. I'm tired of her running around. One day it's my baby, one day it's not. I'm like, no, you can't do that. She's gonna come over here, she's gonna get her something to eat, she's gonna get her some rest.
Miss Gentry still denies all of this and has evidence to defend herself in this regard, which she believes will prove how Morgan cannot be the father of her child.
So you slept with both men on the same day, on the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. You slept only with the other guy.
Since the case has only become more complicated and no further explanations can be enough to extract the truth, Miss Lake decides to finally announce the results.
It has been determined by this court. You are the father.
The results leave Morgan in tears, like he finally found the truth he had been long fighting for.